Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. As usual, we have a lot to talk about. But hey, let me tell you something, guys. I just saw Biden on an interview, not an interview, actually a rally or something like that. I guess at an aluminum plant or I don't know, somewhere out there. And he started, first of all, I don't know if you guys remember that yesterday. And first of all, folks, we're going to get into the program in a minute. But I was very impressed with the interview that I just saw, not the interview, the speech that I just saw that Biden gave. Because for too long, Biden has been playing the game on Donald Trump's turf. Today, he played it on his turf. Today, he was the aggressor. Biden was the aggressor. And how did he address it? It was stupendous. First of all, we know that Donald Trump is a multi-millionaire, supposedly multi-billionaire. We also know that he got those billions through inheritance. We also know that a lot of his businesses went bankrupt even though he was given stuff into his hands. We also know that in the process of being bankrupt and all of that, he's pretty much thrown to the curb people that has worked for him. So we know all these things about Donald Trump, right? But somehow Donald Trump wants to make you believe that Donald Trump is the guy for the middle class. Donald Trump is the guy who's there to protect the virtues of the middle class. Oh, yeah, right. That is what he wants you to believe. And that is what his whole campaign does. He's for the little man. Remember, he said, I like dumb people. Remember, he said, only little people pay taxes, something to that effect. Well, all of that was finally used, or much of that was finally used by Biden on Donald Trump. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So what I'm saying here is when you start to fight not from a position of weakness, not from a position that the weaker party forces you to fight on to take you off keel, but when you start fighting for who you are, guess what happens? You win, you get the narrative on your side, and that is what that is what Joe Biden has started to do. Later on, I'll probably say a little bit more about it, but for right now, let's go ahead and let me see if I got all my shares done. I don't think I have all my shares. For those of you who are just joining us, please, folks, please go ahead and share this program as best you can. This is how we are going to ensure that other people are here to listen to us. I mean, we get tens of thousands of people with podcasts, vlogcasts, and all of that. But what I like to do is get a lot of folks that are also live. And why do I like the live people? Because we can get in real time what are people's thoughts. When we do the rebroadcast, we get a few people as well. But what I'd like to do is get more people live. So please, if you're just joining us, please be sure to share, as I am doing right now as we speak. Anyhow, today's program is going to be good. I mean, we're going to have a grassroots activist that's going to talk to you. But anyhow, let's go ahead and get started. One more share to do, and then I'll be ready to get on the beat as soon as I do. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think I've got 2 more, and then I think I posted that to the right place. Okay, let's go ahead and get. Vamos a comenzar ahorita mismo. Okay, title of the show today is Progressive grassroots activists get it done. Democrats call out Republican hypocrisy and more. A progressive 2020 win requires grassroots activists of all types. Washington is in shambles, from hypocrisy to power plays. So progressive activists will defeat the power play. I guarantee that in 2020, the power play will be defeated. Welcome aboard, Brige MCP. Welcome aboard, AVQ. Michael Rudnin. And of course, Deidre Scott says, my book is ready for your autograph, Egberto. We'll have to plan a book sign-in drive-by. Yes, Deidre, whenever you're ready for a drive-by sign-in, I'll be ready to sign your book. I really thought I signed your book, Deidre. I mean, did you buy directly from me or did you buy from Amazon? If you bought directly from me, I think I signed it. I don't quite recall, but I know I signed about 10 of them over the weekend. So, but anyhow, thank you so kindly, all of you who bought the books. And since you brought it up, you give me a preemptive chance before I start the program to do a plug for my book. So thank you so kindly for doing that, my dear friend Deidre Scott. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick plug here for the book and say, hey guys, what we need you to do is please go to this site, go to Amazon and get our book right now, or go to our store. Either go to politicsdoneright.com/store to get our books, or go to that link that I just placed in the feed. So I'm going to put both of them. I'm going to put the store and I'm going to put the Amazon link in there where you can get the book. And the title of my book is It's Worth It: How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. Welcome aboard, Lee Grant. Welcome aboard, Norman Reynolds. Welcome aboard, Suzanne M.L. La Rochelle. Bruce, welcome aboard. Thank you all, guys. Thank you all of you for being here. All right, so what are the clips that we have today? Clips for today are Chuck Todd grills GOP senator with his and his party's words on waiting for subscription, on waiting for justice, that is. Nancy Pelosi lays down the gauntlet. Rahm Emanuel calls out Republicans for being undemocratic. Republican strategist shames pro-lifers, saying healthcare is a right. We have Republicans now saying healthcare is a right. Remember when people really held it on Bernie Sanders and said, oh my God, you're just trying to turn us into a whole bunch of leftists. And guess what? It's amazing how, like we've said all of the times, if you do the polls, progressive policies always win the day. Progressives policies always wins the day. Don't forget that. And that's why we always say lean into them. Talk to people. Talk to your friends and your families on issues. And when you start to see that they say, I like that, then tell them which politicians are supporting that. You don't have to say, hey, Mom, you need to become a progressive Democrat. You don't have to say that. You need to say, hey, Mom, under Biden, these are the policies that are going to be fought for. Bam, 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 bam. Under Trump, these are the policies he implemented, and this is how it negatively affected your life. Which ones do you want, Mom? Okay, don't talk anything else. This is what you want, Mom. This is what you want, Dad. This is how we need to vote for this, Mom, Dad, and everybody else. So we are going to have to change the narrative. We're going to have to use it smarter. In fact, and once we do that, we ganamos. We win. Ganamos. We win. Okay? Anyhow, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Chuck Todd, and then we'll move on from there. Now, this is one that I would have to call epic. I think it was epic in the way Chuck Todd really handled a Republican. Yes, in the way he handled a Republican. Check this out, and then let's take it on the other side.
4 years ago, when Antonin Scalia's death, 9 months before the presidential election, left a vacancy at the court, Republican senators were very clear. Confirmation of a new justice had to wait for voters to decide the next president.
The American people are about to weigh in.
The campaign is already underway.
And voters are going to get to weigh in.
It's about the principle.
You don't do this in an election year.
The American people will choose.
Let the American people consider it as part of deciding
who to support in November.
That was when Democrat Barack Obama was in the White House. Now many of the same senators you just saw are saying, don't wait. President Trump should get to choose Ginsburg's successor immediately. That it does include my next guest. He's the chair of the Republican conference in the Senate. It's John Barrasso of Wyoming. Senator Barrasso, welcome back to Meet the Press. Senator, I want to get into the politics. 4 years ago, you were emphatic on various ways you said it. You heard it in that list of clips. You would add on at different times, I want to give the American people a voice in this. Why don't you want to give the American people a voice this time?
Well, first, let's be very clear. If the shoe were on the other foot and the Democrats had the White House and the Senate, they would right now be trying to confirm another member of the Supreme Court.
You don't know that.
What we're proposing is completely consistent with the precedent. What happened in 2016, and let's go back, we were following the Joe Biden rule. Joe Biden was clear when he was chairman of the Judiciary Committee. And he said, when there is a Senate of one party and a White House of the other, and he said this to George Herbert Walker Bush, he said, if there's a vacancy in that final year, we will not confirm. And that's what we did with Merrick Garland. But 29 times, Chuck, there have been vacancies in the year of a presidential election. And if both the White House and the Senate are of the same party, they go forward with the confirmation.
I have scoured all of these 2016 notes, looking for these footnotes that have been added now. You guys have this new explanation. Never once on the Senate floor, when election is just months away in 2016, you said the people should be allowed to consider possible Supreme Court nominees as one factor in deciding who they'll support for president. This shouldn't even really be controversial. Then you said this is not about the person, it's about the principle involved, and I want to give the American people a voice in this. Republicans have said there should not be a bitter political fight. We have called on the president to spare the country this fight. The best way to avoid the fight is to agree to let the people decide. Senator, these are your words. Not once did you say, oh, it depends on what party the Senate holds versus the party of the president. This just sounds like a power grab. Pure and simple.
Well, it is the Biden rule, and this is the way, this is the precedent of the country.
You haven't had
no
Biden rule. I want to play. Senator, I want to.
And the president's going to make a nomination, I believe, this week.
Look, I get that, but Senator, nobody in the Senate Republican Conference was arguing these fine footnote points that you and your other colleagues are arguing now. I want to play a clip for you from 2018 from Lindsey Graham. Take a listen.
If an opening comes in the last year of President Trump's term and the primary process has started, we'll wait to the next election. And I've got a pretty good chance of being the judiciary.
You're on the record.
Yeah.
All right.
Hold the tape.
Senator, I guess the question is, should viewers just not believe anything you're saying today, because whatever you're saying today will change depending on the politics of the moment?
Well, I can tell you what's going to happen, Chuck. For viewers who are watching, the president is going to make a nomination. I believe it's going to be this week. And Lindsey Graham, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, we will hold hearings, and there will be a vote on the floor of the United States Senate this year.
Senator, I want to just quote you back to yourself one more time. We have called on the president to spare the country this fight. The best way to avoid this fight, to agree to let the people decide. Give the people a voice. Why is it that this principle only matters when a Democrat is in the White House?
It's not that at all. If we did something different now, we would be breaking with the precedent that has long been established. That if the president and the Senate are of the same party,
precedent?
You move.
But you have no regrets that Senate Republicans are going to look like hypocrites 44 days before the election for just a complete flip-flop to the average American. I mean, I know you're trying to come up with these caveats. Nothing about it makes any sort of sense to the average person.
Now, that is what I call the way you do it. Now, let me tell you, I cut out some of the rambling that Senator Barrasso did because I think Chuck Todd needs to learn how to. I understand you have to listen, but there are times when the airwaves of the American people are being used to spill misinformation that is knowingly misinformation. And at those points, I think Chuck Todd needs to cut him off like he did in several other instances. So I got rid of those particular areas where he rambled to take up time. But this is the type of interview that we want to see going forward. This is how you point out to the American people the liars that these guys are, that these guys have they're not only hypocrites, but they have no soul in what they're supporting, in what they want. It's just about what he said earlier. It's just a power grab. And in getting a power grab, what it means is that we should remove power from them. And as I said before, the atmosphere is there. The climate is there for a 2020 landslide. And this is one of the items, this is one of the issues that's going to push it over. Young women are going to come out in droves. Young people are going to come out like they've never had before. And mark my words, this is the transition. And, you know, going back to the Biden speech today, I love what Biden did today. What Biden did today is that he showed the fraud that is Donald Trump when it comes to whether he likes poor people or whether he likes the regular middle class folks or not. Remember that the narrative is being built slowly. That woman, her name is, I forget her name right now, Olivia something. She worked for the National Security Office or something like that. She pointed out that Donald Trump said, hey, I kind of like this pandemic thing because I don't have to shake all those people's hands anymore. And then then what Biden did is showed that, oh, he really doesn't care about people. He got a silver spoon in his mouth and he used to stiff the plumber. He stiffed the candle. He stiffed all those people that did work for him. He stiffed them. So can he really care about you if he used the power that he has to legally take away what people owe, what it's owed to you? I mean, so they're building the narrative and the way he shows a disdain for people. So, I mean, I like the slow build that we're getting to because it's like a crescendo, right? You get a crescendo until when as people are as more elections are opening up, as more states open up elective offices where you vote, etc., people have more information. They continue to find out that Donald Trump is a fraud. Even those that thought they knew him right now that the pandemic has them by the grip of their neck, they find out that Donald Trump is a fraud. Donald Trump is a fraud. Anyhow, next piece here has to do with Nancy. Nancy is pulling out full Monty, guys. Check it out. So what are Democrats supposed to do if the Republicans decide to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg? Well, Nancy Pelosi is talking, and I think she's serious about it. Check this out.
But to be clear, you're not taking any arrows out of your quiver. You're not ruling anything out.
Good morning. Sunday morning. We have a responsibility. We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. We have a responsibility to meet the needs of the American people. When we weigh the equities, protecting our democracy requires us to use every arrow in our quiver.
And finally, if the Republicans, though, still are successful, many of your colleagues have called for, again, if a majority is voted for Democrats in November, expanding the court in retaliation. Your response?
Well, let's just win the election. Let's hope that the president will see the light. Again, there's many people in our country, and millions more now because of the coronavirus, who have a pre-existing medical condition. The president has not been truthful in what he has said about that. He is in court to crush the pre-existing condition as he crushes the Affordable Care Act instead of crushing the virus. So people have something at stake in this decision and how quickly the president wants to go. I don't think they care about who said what, when, and all the rest of that, but they do care about their own health and well-being and the financial health and well-being of their families if they are subjected to unlimited cost because of a pre-existing condition, as well as eliminating the caps that have been placed by the Affordable Care Act on what insurance companies can charge. So this is about the people. It's about their health, their economic well-being, the health of our democracy. We have a great deal at stake here. I think we should be very calm. We should be inspired by Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was brilliant, and she was strategic, and she was successful. And she did more for equality for women in our country than anyone that you can name. And the women appreciate that. And I think that you will see women weighing in on all of these decisions, be they elections, confirmations, or the rest.
Now, here's the deal, folks. The truth of the matter is, yes, when the Senate is taken over, when we take over the Senate, of course, expand in the House and take the presidency. Everything that is necessary. We don't have to talk about what we will do going forward. We don't even have to spend too much time on whether Mitch McConnell is going to try to stuff that seat, RBG's seat. Okay, we don't have to worry about that. What we have to do is win, and after winning, we do whatever is necessary to ensure that the policies we pass that are middle class centric, that are poor centric, that ensure that we can move the lives of the middle class and the poor up. If there is any action within the triad that stops that, be that the Supreme Court, be that whatever institution that stops progress for the masses, we act accordingly. We don't have to say we're going to put 3 or 4 more people on the courts. We don't have to say that we are going to impeach certain judges that are not qualified, that are just there to prevent progress. We just have to show Americans that when progressives get into power, they will no longer succumb to the corporatocracy. They will no longer succumb to the plutocracy. They will no longer succumb to fear of, I don't want to move so far. I want to tack to the middle. But that they will say, we will do what this country will support. This country is a rich country. Its riches are spread unequally, not because that those who have it are worth it, but because those who have it, the laws have been written so that they could legally acquire them, what I call legal theft. So therefore, we need not say anymore. When in power, act accordingly. When in power, act accordingly. When they are in power and they act badly, progressives should get in power and act with respect of the law as they ensure to move things forward for everyone. And you know, it is interesting, right? Because right now, a lot of the power structure hangs around with conservatives. The Supreme Court is conservative. The Senate is conservative. A lot of these things that can be partitioned are done or seen to be conservative, even though the country is not conservative. The country is not a conservative country. But because we don't have a democracy, a functioning democracy, that's the problem. If you take a look at every state having 2 senators, whether the state only have 1 million people or the state has 39 million people, they get 2 senators. How is that fair? Again, when this country was designed, there were flaws. We don't need to adore a constitution. We don't need to think like everything needs to stay the way it is, because no, there were bad things done at the inception of this country that we have continuously made better and better as we got. So whenever somebody tells me we want to be constitutional, I'm like, really now? I don't want to be constitutional. Why the hell would I want to be constitutional? When the Constitution was written, hey man, I was in trouble. We want changes. Changes better for humanity. I care more about humanity than I do for a document. Not a document, but humanity. Anyhow, I want you to see, Emmanuel talked a little bit about this with respect to the power that Trump thinks he has to make all these changes. He has no power because most of the people don't want his changes. Let's check this out and then we'll take it on the other side. Donald Trump tries to govern as if he was elected by the majority of the American population. He likes to govern as if he has a mandate. Well, you know what? Rahm Emanuel yesterday pretty much put him in his place. Check this out.
One thing that has not been brought up, George, President Trump never received the popular vote. And the idea that you would be nominating a person, not only did you not get the popular vote, it's impossible at this point, based on all the polling, for him to actually win the popular vote this time as well. And that is the tyranny of a minority. And the idea that he didn't have the votes or that somehow he was elected to do this, as Senator Cruz says, no, he wasn't. He never even received the popular vote for this effort. And this proves to me, once again, when you look at Mitch McConnell, you look at Lindsey Graham, what they said, it's what I've always said about Republicans from Washington. They're firm in their opinions. It's their principles they're flexible on. And this
so does that
merely
justify keeping something like impeachment on the table? Does that mean
I don't think that's the reason I reject that politics. And I understand the Speaker. I would never underestimate her to look at all of her efforts and all her tools. But the idea of talking about impeachment as somehow retribution, that is what is corrosive to our political system. That somehow we have to one-up them. I actually think when you look at Ginsburg, one of the things people loved about her was even when she disagreed with Scalia, she had a friendship. And that's why I think one of the most iconic pictures of this week that's going to pay to Joe Biden's benefit is that picture where he elbow bumped the gentleman in Minnesota who was protesting him, and he said, "I will also be your president." That is the America people are yearning for, not the Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump. Even when we don't have a majority, we're going to ram something through and then destroy the fabric of this country. It's not in the spirit of what Ginsburg-Scalia's friendship was, which people yearned for and admired. Even when they disagreed, they heard each other. That's what President Clinton talked about, and that's why that picture of Joe Biden in Minnesota will stand the test of time.
Now, we have to remember this. This stuff about the Electoral College being able to elect a president with a minority of the American citizenry, somehow, even if we can't change it constitutional, we're going to have to effectively change that. Right now, we begin this year by saying we must have landslide victories, and having landslide victories, that can be mitigated. But in the long run, it must be changed. It's not a democracy. There is absolutely no reason to have an electoral college that's electing people. And I tell you something, it's even deeper and worse, that so many senators from small states have a power much greater than a population that they are governing. So we should, there is an institutional change that needs to occur in the long run in America. It simply doesn't work with the current population distribution in this country. And what it does is it disenfranchises the vast majority of American citizens. So in the short term, there's not much that can be done. But in the long term, we're going to have to start thinking about processes so that we don't have this small amount of people that don't have the welfare of most Americans in their grasp. We have to find a way to ensure that what we get is a true democracy. Absolutely, ensure that what we get is a true democracy. Folks, we're near the half of the show right now. So please, if you are on YouTube, please go ahead and consider clicking that join button. You can see it right now if you're looking at YouTube. Click on that join button and become a subscriber. We need your support. This is how we're going to keep this program going. This is how we're going to continue enlightening people, letting them know how things really are instead of how they've been indoctrinated from elementary school to college, from high school to college, etc. We have been taught how to be very passive citizens who do not care that we have a structure that simply use us as cogs. In other words, we produce, we make, we create. You are all smart. You are the functioning pieces of this economy. Yet the spoils go to a few. And we are made to believe that that's the way things are. We are made to believe that we have a meritocracy, that if you are meritorious, that somehow things will always work out for you. But no, the fact of the matter is it only works out if you are chosen. So you have to have two things. It's chosen plus merit, not merit, where things should be of merit. So my brothers and my sisters, we have to start informing our brothers and sisters how we really take power. The masses take power so that we can have equal access to success, equal access to it all, equal access. Not equal outcomes, because some people don't want to work as hard as others, but equal access to success. So please, if you are on YouTube, feel free to click on that join button, join our posse. If you are not on YouTube, I'm going to put the YouTube link in here that allows you to become a subscriber. It's very cheap to support moving the message forward on YouTube. But you can also become what we call a Patreon. We love our patrons as well. And that is, we have a lot of different levels of patron. Go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon, Patreon, politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. You can also support us via PayPal, either one time or multiple times. just go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. People say, why do you come on here and put those things instead of just giving us the show? Well, you know, on regular TV, you get commercials. You don't get commercials here. We just put these things out and say, hey, could you please go ahead and support the program? This is your program, and not only is this your program, but you know that you have input. You can be on. You can have all these other acts. You have full access to the program because it's what, again? Yours. It is absolutely yours. And you can support us at Facebook as well. Let me go ahead and put the Facebook link in there. And don't forget, get my book. The book is It's Worth It: How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. And here is that link. Anyhow, we're going to continue. Did I put the link in? Yeah, I got the link in. We're going to continue with the program. We have the interview with Deeney Allen. But before we get to Deeney Allen, we have two short clips that we want to give you here. Numero uno is this one about, Republican strategist finally realizes that healthcare should be a right. If you're really pro-life, I've never thought pro-life people were pro-life, right? They're pro-fetus. They're not pro-life. They're pro-fetus. Progressives are pro-life. We believe once you're born, we want to give you the ability to move forward. We want to give you the ability to succeed. We want to make sure that you have a good life. That's really pro-life. Check this out. A pro-life Republican has just seen the light. You know, with this Supreme Court justice fiasco coming to pass, and with women scared to death about losing all of their control of their bodies, it is amazing because I think Republicans are starting to see the light. Even their women are starting to say, wait, can we really allow men the total control of our bodies as they have before? Can we really allow these religious quacks who we know what they do behind the scenes? They preach one thing, they do something else. Can we really have those people controlling who we really are or what we really can do? Well, it seems like Rick Tyler, a Republican strategist, is starting to see the light. Healthcare, a right from a Republican? Check this out. We'll take it on the other side.
This Supreme Court, 5 days after the election, is going to hear the case that threatens to completely overturn the Affordable Care Act, something that Donald Trump has been trying to do his entire administration. The health insurance coverage of 20 million people is at risk. That is what is on the mind of the American voters. And so I think to the question of who's motivated, it is women, it is young people, it is people of color who've seen this administration try to take away voting rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, and realizes that this next appointment on the Supreme Court is going to mean something not just for the next administration, but for decades to come.
Let me make an argument really quickly about a pro-life argument for the Health Care Act that was just mentioned, the ACA. Taking away pre-existing conditions, in my view, as someone who is pro-life, is wrong because if life is, to me, inviolable, then protecting life is inviolable, which means pre-existing conditions that you have to protect and maintain life if you're truly going to be pro-life. And so I would urge the community to look at health and healthcare, and that healthcare is a right. And why is it a right? Because we have a right to maintain life.
Wow, that is Rick Tyler, a Republican strategist. I would kind of try to consider, or I would kind of encourage them to also look at the jail industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, as a pro-life issue as well. I will also try to convince them to consider the food stamp program a life issue, a pro-life issue. I would consider asking them for all the support of parents getting child support, a pro-life issue as well. The amount of people that die for the lack of these types of social services far likely exceed what they call abortion or the deaths caused by abortion. Remember, we don't really know. I sure don't know where life really begins. I am not smart enough to possibly know that. So how could we possibly think we can tell women what they can do with their own bodies, something growing in their own bodies? How can we possibly be so presumptuous to say that this woman can have her own relationship with her God and her body? That's not our place. So pro-life has very little to do with wanting life. Pro-life is just a moniker with no meaning. If you are pro-life, you are against the death sentence. If you are pro-life, you are for giving people food stamps. If you are pro-life, you are for ensuring that mothers and fathers have the access to take care of kids, to be able to put them wherever they want. If you are pro-life, all those issues that enhance life, that prevents the loss of life, that is pro-life. And for all that I've always known about what progressives stand for, the true pro-lifers are progressives. Man, I love what Pamela Mattox had to say. Pro-life is also not taking free lunch away from hungry kids, poor kids, and hungry children. You're so right, Pamela. And Mark Damon says, people don't remember how many women lost their lives in the back alleys doing abortion. So right. I'll read the rest later. Those just kind of scrolled by me in a minute. One more video before our interviewee, and this is Trump. Trump thinks that he has done such a good job, didn't he? Trump says he's doing a great job. He's doing a great job handling COVID-19. So what does he rate himself? 200,000 people dead, but he gives himself an A+. Tells you how much he believes in these other people, right? How much he believes in the value of life. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Today, the number of Americans killed by the coronavirus surpassed 200,000, but President Trump is still insisting that the worst is over.
We're rounding the corner. With or without a vaccine. They hate it when I say that, but that's the way it is. We're rounding the corner on the pandemic, and we've done a phenomenal job, not just a good job, a phenomenal job, other than public relations, but that's because I have fake news. I can't, you can't convince them of anything. They're fake. But we have done, on public relations, I give myself a D. On the job itself, we take an A+.
Now, of course, we have all the tapes that show otherwise. We have all the show that he knows what was going on all along, and that he never put that information out there so that people could act accordingly. Had people known that the virus was airborne, had people known the lethality of the virus, they would not have been in close proximity. Well, many of them would not have been, and which would have prevented 200,000 deaths, with probably less than half of that. But you know what? When you are privileged, it doesn't really matter, right? A+. The president gets an A+ because he doesn't have to pay for the debts caused by him, but we get the common criminal spending life in jail for accidents, right? Well, hey, Michael Redden, I love George Carlin. My wife would always buy me George Carlin books, right? Because I love his jokes and all of that. And in this book that I wrote called As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. That's the book that I wrote before the new book. I actually took out, there's a passage that I took out of one of his books. Actually, it's a stand-up skit that talks a lot about how we are all screwed. And it is a similar passage to what you have there, just a pretty one that's quite a bit longer. But George Carlin understood the hypocrisy of, understood the criminality of our politics. He understood that our politics was really horrendous. Anyhow, let's go ahead and play Deanie, and we'll then take it on the other side. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm here with Deeney Allen. Deanie, how are you doing this morning?
I am doing great. Absolutely wonderful.
Well, let me tell you why I wanted to talk to you, because you represent a group of women out here in the northeast part of Houston that is working your butts off as progressive Democrats trying to make sure that Texas become blue. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? How did you get politically involved? And let's try to make this something that other people around the country can feel, I can do it, I want to do it.
Okay. I grew up in the segregated South. I had a great friend in college who was African American. We tried to integrate a dance hall and promptly got thrown out. Luckily, we were safe, but I faithfully voted Democrat. I just was not involved. And then 2016 happened, and I was horrified. I always knew the Electoral College was really quirky and people didn't understand it and that this was a possibility. And so I got involved in Indivisible. I got involved in Liberal Ladies Who Lunch, and it wasn't activist enough for me. And luckily out here in Kingwood-Humble area in Northeast Houston, we have the Lake Houston area Democratic Volunteers. I got plugged into that. I did door knocking. And once COVID hit, I did phone calling. And once COVID hit, I thought, I just have to do something. We cannot let this travesty of justice go. But someone who won by 77,000 votes is totally and completely turning into fascist dictator. I'm sorry, that's what I see.
No, I don't disagree with you, but I want to sort of modify something for our audience. He won 3 states that gave him an electoral college majority by 77,000 votes, but he lost the election by 6 million votes. And with that, he believes he has the right to appoint Supreme Court judges and do things that are completely anathema to most of the country's desires. So I think we have to make sure and let people understand that that the opposition to Trump isn't coming from a disgruntled minority, but from an active majority that now says we have to get engaged. And one of the reasons I like what you're doing is you're all over the place with regards to getting things done. Tell us a little bit. Let's before we get into some physical issues with you, let's go ahead and get into what exactly were you doing before you kind of got stymied at home?
Before we got sidelined at home, I was phone calling. And one of the things we do is we just call people and say, are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? And we mark them, so we code them. Anyone who votes in an election, the Secretary of State has information that, yes, you did vote. So if people voted in a Democratic primary, we figure probably Democrat. So we would call them and see, are you a Democrat? And we say, great. And then when it was time for an election, like in the 2018 election, we called up all those known Democrats and said, please go vote. Please go vote. We knocked on doors and we said, please go vote. Please go vote. We registered voters. I'm a deputy voter volunteer registrar. But then COVID hit. And we thought, oh my goodness, we can't knock on doors because a person-to-person conversation is the most important thing. So all over Harris County, Texas, which is what Houston is in, our groups have dropped off almost 100,000 door hangers on apartments in underserved communities. And that door hanger said, this is a registration to register to vote. You can fill this out and mail it in to the Secretary of State and you'll be registered to vote. And in Texas, every time you move, you're not registered anymore. So we were part of that group that would go to apartment complexes. We would not talk to anyone. We wore gloves and masks and we hung these on apartment doors. And occasionally people would say, what do you do? And we would say, we're distributing voter registration forms. And they would say, great. But I've also been calling actively. I'm a precinct captain, which means in my little part of my town, my area, my job is to encourage people to go vote. I've been texting people to please, would you consider calling? Because I call people on the phone. I call for specific candidates and said, would you vote for this candidate? This is why I think you should vote for it. And now we are going to move into calling known Democrats to say, you signed up for a vote by mail ballot. Please be on the lookout for it. Please fill it in. And closer to the election, we'll be calling known Democrats and saying, please go vote. Please go vote. Now more than ever, please go vote. What's your plan? When are you going to vote? Because if you ask someone, when are you going to vote? That really makes them think, okay, I'm a specific plan as opposed to, yeah, I'm going to go vote because they get involved in their job, and all of a sudden it's the day before election and they haven't voted.
Now, Deanie, I also call you a fisher of people, because not only do you work with trying to get people to vote on an individual basis, but you actually go out there and get other people. In other words, you duplicate yourself. And what that's really called is geometric progression. What that means then is that you multiply yourself by so many times that you get things done by making a whole lot more of you. So tell us a little bit about how successful you have been with that just in the recent days.
Just in the last 5 days, I have been calling candidates. Now, this summer it happened that I called, and I reached at least 5 people. And I said, are you a Democrat? And I got this response quite vociferously. I've always been a Republican. I've voted Republican all my life. But doggone it, in this primary, I voted for every single Democrat. I am so disgusted with what's going on. And that was in the primary. And now that it's the fall, I'm calling people up again. And when I ask them, would you vote for this particular candidate, or please go vote, I always end up, yesterday I said, do you have any questions, ma'am? And sometimes people want to know, when is early voting, or when can I vote, or whatever. And this lady went, how can we fix this? How can we get rid of Trump? And she just went on and on. She was so upset. And after about 5 or 10 minutes, I just listened, and I said, sounds like you would make a great volunteer. Would you be willing to call people? So over this past 2 weeks, I found 2 in the Champions area and 2 in the Kingwood area. And these areas tend to be Republican, very, very vocal Republicans who are quite rude. If I say anything that's Democrat or anything that is kind or anything politically correct. So we kind of keep a low profile. I've had my Biden sign stolen out of the yard twice. It now has to be inside of a window, and we shine a light on it at night. The other candidate signs have not been stolen, but we filed a police report, and the police came out. So.
Excellent. But, people have been talking for a long time about this silent Trump vote. I think this election around is not a silent Trump vote. It's a silent non-Trump vote. In other words, I have been finding a lot of my Republican folk as well. A few months ago, a Republican friend of mine tapped me on the back, and he slapped me on the back, actually. And he said, I just want to let you know I'm going to make you happy. And I'm like, wow. Okay. He said, this is a staunch Republican guy who actually voted for Trump as well. He said, I'm going to make your day. I'm going to make you happy. I am voting straight line Democrat this time around because we have to do something. And as I talk to people all over, I don't know, I get the same kind of response as well. That is a lot of people that they won't tell it to their Republican friends, but they know that, like you, we are super progressives, so they go out there and they say, we are going to be voting this way. And what I try to tell people, Deanie, as we talk to them is, hey, you don't have to go ahead and tell anybody, your friends and all of that to who you're voting for. Just remember, when you go into that booth, it's between you, your machine, and your God. So you can do whatever you want, just vote your interest. And if you vote in your interest, you're voting the way we see things.
Yeah. And that's so true. It's just easy to be a volunteer for phone banks. You're provided with the scripts, you're provided with training, and you just call up people and say, please go vote. And most people are happy. We're leaving messages when we can, and it's just a reminder. So I think this time there will be the silent Biden voter, and I think that people have had enough. It is not fair that 39% of people think abortion is horrible and should be totally outlawed, and they rule the country. If you don't want to have an abortion, don't get an abortion. I don't think that a minority of 40% should dictate everything. The way it is that federal judges are lifetime appointments, and hopefully, people would appoint someone who will interpret the law, because we do have some judges on the Supreme Court who were appointed by a Democrat, and they've had some fairly conservative rules. You know, even Justice Ginsburg, for as much as I like her, she's had one or two rulings that I was like, oh, as an educator, well, I don't know, you know. But but what is happening now is we have far-right activist judges. And the truth is, they say we have to go back to the Constitution the way it was when it was written. Well, America is not what it was when it was designed. Only white men with land could vote. If we went back to that idea of Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, all the others, the framers of the Constitution, John Hancock, and no, that's not what America is. We can't just have rich white men vote, who own land, by the way. So we have evolved, the country has evolved, and we need to continue that evolution towards a more perfect union.
You know, I would love to end it there, but I should have asked the questions in such a manner that I could get that at a different ending. But because I want to talk about something that is very important, your devotion. You actually hurt yourself doing this work, and that wasn't enough to stop you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it didn't hurt myself doing the work. I went out several weekends and we met at like 7 o'clock in the morning. We divided up the door hangers and we assigned ourselves apartment complexes. And I went and coordinated that. And then I was on a walk in my neighborhood and took a little trot through the woods. And I'm a retired teacher. I work part-time at my house. And I decided to jump the creek. The creek was only like 2 feet wide. I thought, yeah, I can do that. Well, I fell, I slipped, I broke my ankle. So now I am totally homebound. It's been 5 weeks ago and I am now working hard, walking in a shoe, but I am totally committed to phoning, and Zoom meetings and getting people to volunteer and just doing everything from my home to be as activist as possible. So broken foot, schmoking foot, didn't stop me.
Look, I can attest to that because it's been said that even on a Sunday, you appear on Zoom calls and Zoom meetings and Zoom voter registration, on all these kinds of things. So you keep up the good work, Deanie. It was my pleasure to speak to you. Before I go, is there one thing you want to tell the listening audience right now before we close this out?
Go vote, go vote, go vote, and tell all your friends to vote for every single Democrat from the first name on the ticket to the last name on the ticket, because we're not going to have a blue wave. We're going to have a blue tsunami.
Clear enough. Deeney Allen, thank you so kindly for having appeared on Politics Done Right.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
I love Jeannie, man. I mean, Deanie. Hear me, Jeannie. Deanie. But she's right. A blue tsunami. The blue tsunami is in our hands. It's what we decide to do is going to determine if we have a win or a tsunami. The emperor has no clothes. The fake, the fraud, and that which has hurt too many Americans, irrespective of their ideology. Too many Americans have been damaged. Look at the TikTok deal that got done. The TikTok deal was nothing more also than a payoff to Donald Trump cronies. Again, we see what the beginnings of fascism looks like. And we are exposing it one item right after the other. Check out the TikTok deal. Nothing has changed as far as people's security. Nothing has changed as far as people's security. But here is the deal. Americans are finding out, and a lot of ideologues are starting to say, oh my God, I will not be fooled anymore. Let me run through. I only have a couple of minutes. Let's see. Look for the big ones here. First of all, let me reconfirm all our great people that are here. Welcome aboard, Masticator, Michael Rudnin, Bridge MCP, Mark Damon, Paul Fleming, para ver quién más está aquí. Norman Reynolds, my brother. Let's see. Pamela Matax. Who else am I missing? Wow, quite a few here today. Who else is here from you? I saw from YouTube. Lee Grant, welcome. I got Masticator already. I got Lee Grant already. Tank 28, my young MAGA. Okay, let's see. By the way, Tank, I thought you were going on vacation, buddy. What happened? Did the rain stop you or something? Okay, how do I say that? Decanjo 12236, welcome aboard. Hemia Dolphins 12357, welcome as well. Wow, great. Love you all, man. Just keep coming and keep sharing. You guys are doing wonderfully well. Of course, there's Deidre Scott, my Houston sister. Lee Grant, I think I got you already. Suzanne M. La Rochelle, I think I got you earlier on. But anyhow, we had a great time. Folks, look, we are going to have to get out of here shortly. Let me go ahead and look down the screen. I saw some more messages coming, see if there's somebody else that needs saluting. Mark Damon says, I've seen those polls. I think Biden wins by more than the polls are showing. Mark Damon, I think you're right. The polls are overcorrecting, in my opinion, because, again, people are misunderstanding what the polls said before. Hillary Clinton came within the margins of the polls. But there's more than just the margins of the polls. There's sentiment and there's directionality. So I'm likely agreeing with you, sir. Let's see if anybody else has. I'm going to wait a couple of months before taking the vaccine. I can understand that, and I will not argue with anybody who does that. I am not going to say what I'm going to do immediately because I want to make sure to only give when it comes to the vaccine, to only give informed opinions on what I am going to do with respect to the vaccine. Because this is a serious thing, and if you have a mouthpiece and you're talking to people, you want to make sure not to steer anybody. This is life or death. This is contagious. This is quite a bit. Mark Damon says if Biden wins Texas, the race will be called by 11. Yeah, I think so too. I think if he wins Florida, it will be called a bit earlier. And I think Florida will come in quite early until they get to those small counts. But if the margin is large enough, they'll still be able to call it. Not officially, but they'll still be able to call it. Rudnan says Trump was told how deadly coronavirus was from November 2019, but he squandered the time and tried to downplay it. The Woodward tape showed that Trump knew based on his own words. And that's what's so important about his tapes. It's not based on what Woodward said Trump said. It is based on you listening to what Trump said he knew. So important. So important. Okay, let's see what else is here. Let me go down to the bottom, then I got to get out of here. Bridge MCP says, oh, so what you're saying, politics done right with Egberto Willis is even if they get a justice on the bench, we hopefully get more in the House and Senate for future issues. Yeah, right, exactly. In other words, just let it go. You know, I don't want to spend too much time on the Supreme Court thing, right? They have the numbers to really ram it through. And if we continue to fight on that, there are all these other issues that we are not fighting about, right? There are all these other issues that we're not fighting about. So let's go ahead and work on the things and I see Biden is doing that. I'm so proud of what Biden is actually doing. Again, you know my candidate is Bernie Sanders, but Biden is our candidate, and I see Biden doing what needs to get done. So, I mean, that is very good. Florida will not be early because they will find a dozen ways to cheat, especially with a Republican governor. You're probably right, Bruce. Michael Rudnan says, 4 senators, that's all that need to flip the order for Democrats to retake the Senate. We are retaking the Senate. We are. Though Masticator says the following. Egberto and his cute predictions will absolutely make him the fool when Trump wins, but somehow he will get back on FV telling us why he was correct. No, if Donald Trump miraculously wins in November, I will come back here I will keep my show and I'll tell all of you we have a lot of work to do. You see, Masticator, you misunderstand. And I got to get out of here, but you misunderstand, Masticator. I am pushing for us to always do the right thing and for us to move the progressive movement forward because it helped us all, including you, Masticator. If something miraculously happens and Trump wins, why am I going to look like a fool? I mean, I would just come and say what happened. We lost. And why did we lose? We have to figure that out. because everything is lined up for a landslide. Why did we lose? We would have to figure that out. And that is what we'll all come back here together and talk about. For me, it's not about how I look. Don't you get it yet? I don't matter. I do not matter. We matter. So when you guys sit back, oh, he's going to look like a fool for saying that doesn't matter. Understand where we're coming from. The country is screwed under the leadership of Donald Trump, my brother. Don't you get it, masticator? The country is screwed under Trump. You are screwed under Trump. Our goal here is to do what's right. If it takes me looking like a fool to get things right, so be it. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.